Yup, that's right, I injured myself pretty good out hiking recently, and I want to tell you the full story of how it happened, what I learned from the experience, and then hopefully some things that you can learn from it too. Okay, let's start all the way at the beginning. As many of you know, one of the main focuses in my videos has been hiking the terrifying 25 trails in New Hampshire. This list has two halves, the generally harder required trails and the generally easier elective trails. In 2021, I worked on fully hiking all 14 elective terrifying trails, which was a resounding success. I completed them all before the fall was over and made nice little videos for each one, which hopefully you've definitely all seen by now, right? In 2022, I definitely wanted to keep working on completing this list, but then in May, before the hiking season had even started, boom, tore my ACL playing soccer. And just like that, no terrifying trails were hiked by me in 2022. Fast forwarding to 2023, I've had my ACL reconstruction surgery. I fully completed all of my physical therapy. I am ready to be back. I am so excited to hike. I had been cleared by my doctor to go back to my regular activities all the way back in March, so I was well prepared to start this new hiking season. The only thing different this year is that during any physical activities such as going to the gym or skiing or hiking, I had to wear a custom activity knee brace to help protect my new knee just a little bit extra. But once the summer was started, I was fully set on finishing the required terrifying trails and earning my patch. After accounting for all the trails I had previously hiked and filmed, I only had 15 trails left to complete on the terrifying 25, and so I started my journey. Now, through a quirk of the terrifying 25 list design and my previous progress, 11 of the trails that I needed to complete were concentrated in the northern presidentials on only 4 freaking mountains: Mount Madison, Mount Adams, Mount Jefferson, and of course, Mount Washington, with the rest spread out in other areas across the state. This fact would prove tricky in 2023 with how much rain and poor weather the White Mountains had been experiencing, especially since the majority of the trails that I still needed to hike were concentrated in the same exact 30 square mile area and on the same 4 mountains that usually attract the worst weather in the whole region. One of my first targets to complete was the Great Gulf Wilderness. Now, this area holds 4 different terrifying trails. The trail I was least looking forward to in this area was the Great Gulf Trail. This is simply because it was the longest trail I had left to do on the entire list, and I knew that it would be time consuming and cumbersome to film. Therefore, I decided to start with the Sphinx and Six Husbands trails because they were the shortest in the wilderness and were offshoots of the Great Gulf Trail anyways. The first trail that I completed was the Sphinx Trail on August 6th, and even with being able to skip filming 90% of the miles that I hiked that day, it still took me over 14 hours to finish, and I ended up hiking back to my car in the dark. It was more of the same when I completed the Six Husbands Trail on August 12th, where hiking and filming took me 16 freaking hours to complete, and I once again got back to my car well after dark. And those were supposed to be the shorter trails to film. I knew that I needed a different game plan for the full 13 miles of the Great Gulf Trail. It was simply too long to film in one day. My plan was simple. I'd split the filming into 2 days. Day 1 would be the less steep and longer approach portion, and day 2 would be the tougher and steeper headwall climb. So this is how I found myself hiking the Great Gulf Trail on Saturday, August 19th. I woke up bright and early and started my hike from the Great Gulf Wilderness parking area around 6 a.m. and crossed the iconic walking bridge. The weather forecast was supposed to be rather cloudy with chances of showers and drizzles throughout the day, with much worse weather affecting the summits. However, I was in good spirits because I wasn't even planning to summit that day. Most of the showers and drizzles would be caught by the tree cover that I was hiking under. Filming was fairly uneventful to start. I enjoyed the cloudy skies and how atmospheric it made the wilderness seem that day, with the calmer lighting making the moss extra eerie. The trail in general seemed noticeably damper and a bit more muddy than it had been on my previous 2 outings to those 2 offshoot trails. From those previous hikes, I knew the trail wouldn't really be getting rougher until after the second bridge crossing, and the terrain wouldn't get marginally steeper until after passing this one huge rock. You can see how the previous smooth dirt trail has been replaced by just constant rock scrambling and rock dodging. The trail is finally living up to the wilderness designation bestowed upon this whole area. And then we finally have the fateful stream crossing. This is the scene of the impending accident. Look at at him. He doesn't even know what's about to happen. So what many of you viewers understand and chuckle about all the time is, oh, Adam, you must have to walk back and get your camera all the time. And this is simple enough and totally correct for 90% of the clips that I take. But what about those other 10%? These are on what I call the hero features. These are features where I desire full camera coverage, which basically means filming the same exact feature from the walk away from the camera, the walk towards the camera, and the GoPro in the mouth first person perspective. So it really multiplies the walkbacks that I need to do. These hero features could be interesting things like big rock scrambles, bouncy bridges, or in this case, scenic stream crossings. All right, back to this fateful stream crossing. Let's keep a running tally of the number of actual stream crossings that I complete. Here I am capturing the walk away and then the walk back. 2 stream crossings with no issues. And here it seems I found a bonus side angle in the middle of the stream. A little walk across sideways and then the walk back. 2 more stream crossings with no issues. And here we come to the last angle. I want to walk towards the camera here. So first I have to set myself up and cross the stream to begin the clip on the other side. And here is the moment it all went wrong. One unsuccessful crossing. That's the sound of me breaking my left hand and partially re-tearing my left knee's ACL. So to recap, how many different times had I crossed that stream with no issue? 4 times? Wrong. Look at the map. This stream crossing occurs before both of the other terrifying offshoot trails. So I had crossed the same exact stream on those 2 previous hikes for 4 additional successful crossings. That's a total of 8 successful crossings of the same exact stream in the past 2 weeks, and then only 1 that went differently. I had been lulled into a false sense of security and had not considered this a troublesome part of the trail based on my prior experience. You can even see me in the footage from the 2 previous stream crossings avoiding that rock entirely and not even stepping on it. Just this one time I finally did, and it initially didn't move when I stepped on it. It's only when I shifted my weight all the way onto my left leg that the rock finally moves, and my right leg was powerless to help, slipping as I fell down. The real issue is that my left foot then got caught in some rocks, holding my leg and knee in an awkward position as my full weight came down without it being able to move freely. And this is the moment it really sank in what I had done to my knee and what it could mean for me and my hiking future. But what's weird is that I actually don't think I knew there was anything wrong with my hand at this point. During the fall, I felt and heard the pop of my knee and basically knew immediately that something had happened with my ACL based on the experience I had with that prior injury. So that's where all of my focus was initially directly after the fall. After I collected myself and breathed through some of the initial shock and pain of this situation, I knew that I needed to get out of that area onto a more stable surface to catch my breath and assess what was really going on. So this is when I hobbled over, turned off the camera, and laid next to the stream for some time. So it's while sitting here resting next to the stream, letting the pain subside, that of course my mind starts to wander to a million places all at once. What if I hadn't stepped on that one rock? What if I had used trekking poles? What if I decided to get my feet wet? Why did I really need to film this stream a 3rd time? I had already filmed it twice. Wasn't that good enough? I could have been hiking up the trail going on my merry way. And it just drives you crazy thinking all these what ifs. You know, what does this mean for my hiking future? Is it over? You just can drive yourself crazy. You just have to be able to then focus in on the task at hand. The thing that matters most at this point in time is, how am I going to get out safely? How am I going to remedy this situation? All of those what ifs, it doesn't really matter at that point. The situation already happened, and I just needed to focus on what needed to happen next. It was only while resting here that I noticed how badly my hand hurt, with a sharp pain when I pushed on the bone. It became very clear to me at that point that my left hand was basically useless for grabbing things, picking things up, or supporting my weight. One injury is bad enough, but 2 on the same side of the body, that is even worse. Let's run down the situation. I am on the Great Gulf Trail, 3.6 miles from the trailhead. I have fallen crossing the extreme. I heard my knee pop and I am reasonably sure that I re-tore my ACL. My hand hurts and I cannot put any weight on it. I do not have a satellite communicator, and because I'm in a wilderness area, I do not currently have cell phone reception. I can currently not get a call for help out from this spot on the trail, and even if I did, it would take hours for someone to reach me. However, it is the summer on a Saturday in a popular hiking area. And of note, I had seen hikers earlier in the day on this very trail. There is a reasonable expectation that another hiker would come along, but I am unclear when or if that would actually happen. In light of all that information and the fact that I was feeling relatively stable sitting alongside the stream, I decided in that moment that the best thing that I could do was just wait for a while and see if things started feeling better or if they started feeling worse. And that also gave some time for some other hikers to hopefully eventually come by. After 20 to 30 minutes, unfortunately no other hikers had come by, but my pain was beginning to subside and my knee was feeling a whole lot more stable. I could walk somewhat and determined that I could slowly walk my way out. My hand, however, still hurt if you tried to use it or put any weight on it. So it is then that I made the decision to hike back out to my car. So how does one actually go about hiking back to your car with all of these injuries? Extremely slowly, let me tell you. Luckily, because of my injury the previous year, I knew that if it was an ACL injury, your ACL has to do with a lot of the twisting motion in your knee. So as long as I planted my foot straight and nice and up and down and didn't do a lot of twisting motions, I thought that I should be able to very slowly make my way out, always being sure to deliberately plant my foot and make sure I was in firm footing before putting any weight on it. I had begun to regain a little bit of my strength by that point, and so going nice and slowly seemed to be working. Oh, and then also because I was filming, I did have my tripod with me. So all of a sudden my tripod could function as a makeshift trekking pole for my one good hand, because that's right, my other hand, my left hand, that was still completely hurt, couldn't pick up, grab things. I couldn't use any of my weight on it to help me get around rocks on the hike back. So that was another thing I had to deal with. Let's also not forget probably all of the adrenaline that was coursing through my veins. Everything probably was not hurting as much as it should have been, and I was just so laser focused on getting back to my car that nothing else mattered by this point. And it was only once I got back to my car that I would even let myself begin to relax and let the full weight of the situation hit me like that. So the combination of going nice and slow, deliberately planting my left foot on each time, and then using that tripod as my trekking pole, I began to slowly hike my way back. As I made my way out, I did eventually run into some other hikers maybe 45 minutes after I had started my way back, but by this point I had viewed my situation as stable and had basically proven to myself that I could make it back to my car on my own power, and so didn't really feel the need to ask for help from them at this time or have them send communication on my behalf. Another tiny factor that really helped get me back to my car during this hike was, as you know from the beginning of this story, I had hiked the same exact trail twice in the past 2 weeks. So I was already very familiar with a lot of the different landmarks along the trail, so I wasn't necessarily focusing on how long it would take to get to my car. I knew a bunch of the landmarks along the trail and I could focus on them. I knew that at first I had to hit the big rock and that things would get easier once I got to the big rock. And then after the big rock, I could focus on getting to the smaller footbridge. And after that, I knew exactly how many small little bridges I got to before I hit the wilderness sign. So it was a bunch of these little things in a row so that each time I hit a new landmark that I remembered, I could focus on what was the next landmark, just get to that landmark. And next thing you know, I was at that large footbridge and I was able to get myself all the way back to my car. And so I broke it up into nice manageable chunks. And that made it so much better than just trying to focus on all of the 3.5 miles that I needed to get back all the way to the beginning of the trailhead. The pictures and videos I took that day indicate that my injury at the stream crossing occurred around 11 a.m. And then I only made it safely back to my car around 3:45 p.m., roughly 4.5 hours after the injury took place. Finally back in civilization, the urgent care quickly confirmed through an x-ray that I did indeed break my hand, a metacarpal fracture of my left index finger. And then my knee doctor quickly examined me and had inconclusive results. He requested that I get an MRI to get better understanding of what had happened to my knee. The MRI did confirm that I had a partial tear of my ACL. So not a full tear, so I guess that's kind of a good thing. But because of that, everything now is so up in the air. I don't fully know what the doctor will recommend for me for future treatment or if I fully need new reconstruction surgery. So therefore my doctor recommended that I rest a bit before he fully determined what the course of my treatment plan will be. Though I have regained the ability to walk around my house normally, which I think is a good thing. So that's the full story of what happened and where things stand today. It really has been a whirlwind, and I've just been going stir crazy sitting at home here resting. So after all of that, what have I learned from this situation? First, I think I've gained a new appreciation for the risks of hiking, that an accident can happen anywhere on the trail very rapidly. I think it's noteworthy that this incident wasn't at one of the many terrifying sections of the trails that I hike, but at a very tame, flat, seemingly simple stream crossing. One that I might add that wasn't the trickiest, slipperiest, or hardest stream crossing that I had to complete even that day on that same exact trail. Hence another reason why my guard was lowered. Second, and I've known this one for a while, even though I mostly focus on day hiking, having some sort of satellite communication device like a Garmin InReach for situations like this certainly would be helpful, especially if I'm hiking solo. Now, ultimately, I did not need rescue in this exact circumstance, but I very easily could have. Lastly, and I know a bunch of you are sitting there at home screaming this one from the top of your lungs, I fully acknowledge that using trekking poles could have drastically altered the outcome of this situation. Now, I had used them briefly in the past, but for years had never normally used them when I was hiking. Maybe it should have been clearer to me after my surgery that I now needed to take extra precautions to protect myself and my new knee. But honestly, at this point, that's living in those coulda, woulda, shouldas. Suffice it to say, when my hand is healed enough to finally hold a trekking pole again, you'll see me back out on the trails with trekking poles from now on. Now, is there anything else I should have learned or anything that you learned from my story? Please let me know in those comments down below. Well, I've been clearly rambling on for long enough. Now I hope you all go get hiking on my behalf because I clearly can't do that right now.